Have you ever thought about how one tiny little thing can just snowball into something huge? Well, today we're diving headfirst into an incredible story from the Mahabharata. It's a wild chain of curses, impossible quests, and it all builds up to one of the most legendary acts of vengeance ever. And it all kicks off with one very tense conversation.
Okay, just imagine this. You walk into a king's court, and that's the first thing you say to him. This is the sage Utanka, and he is not messing around. No hello, no bowing, just pure unfiltered rage. So you gotta ask, what could possibly be so important that he'd risk talking to a king like that?
Utanka isn't just there to yell at the king for slacking off. Oh no, he's there to demand something huge. Vengeance. He's telling King Janamejaya that he needs to avenge his father, who was murdered by the Serpent King, Takshaka. But here's the thing, this isn't just about the king's duty. For Utanka, this is personal, deeply personal.
So that's the big mystery we're unpacking, right? Why is this sage so unbelievably angry? And maybe even more important, why is this powerful king actually taking him seriously? To get the answer, we have to hit rewind and go all the way back to the beginning of Ushanka's story.
So, long before he was this furious sage, Utanka was just a loyal student, and his whole story really kicks off with a final test from his teacher. Think of it like a final exam payment, but way, way more intense.
In ancient India, this payment was called guru-dakshina. It wasn't about money. It was a gesture, a token of gratitude and respect to your teacher, your guru, for all the knowledge they've given you. And the thing is, the guru could ask for anything. And what Utanka's teacher wanted, well, it was a pretty tall order.
It's actually his teacher's wife who makes the request. She tells him, "Go get me the magical earrings worn by the queen of a nearby kingdom." And the deadline? He has just 4 days to get them back for a super important ceremony. No pressure, right? Succeed, and all is well. Fail, and, well, you don't want to fail. So Utanka sets off, and right away things get weird, like really weird. He meets this man on a giant bull who tells him to eat the bull's dung. He even says, "Hey, your master ate it, so should you." And Utanka, trusting his teacher completely, just does it. Turns out it's some kind of divine test to purify him for what's ahead.
So after passing that unique test, Utanka actually manages to get the earrings. But the queen gives him this really ominous warning. She says, "Be careful. Takshaka, the king of the serpents, has wanted these things forever." And just like that, our main villain enters the chat.
And yep, just as she warned, trouble finds him. Utanka stops to bathe, and this strange beggar appears out of nowhere, snatches the earrings, and bolts. Utanka takes off after him, and the beggar reveals his true form. It's Takshaka. The Serpent King then dives straight into a crack in the earth and vanishes into the serpent realm. The grudge is officially on.
Following him down, Utanka enters a whole other world. He sees these strange, symbolic sights. 2 women weaving with black and white threads, representing day and night. A giant wheel with 12 spokes for the months of the year. He's clearly not in the normal world anymore. This is a place of deep cosmic power.
Realizing he can't win with brute force, Utanka does what he does best. He shows his devotion. He prays. And a divine being shows up and tells him to blow on his horse. He does, and this massive cloud of fire and smoke starts pouring out, choking the entire serpent kingdom. A terrified Takshaka has no choice but to give the earrings back. Utanka makes it back just in the nick of time, but now he has a burning personal hatred for that serpent king.
Now, you might be thinking, Utanka's quest sounds pretty extreme. And you're right, but in the world he came from, this level of intense devotion was actually kind of the norm. You just have to look at what his fellow students went through.
I mean, listen to this. One of his classmates, Aruni, was told to stop a leak in a field, and when he couldn't, he just used his own body as a dam for hours. Another, Upamanyu, was basically starved by his teacher as a test of spirit until he went blind from hunger and fell in a well. These weren't punishments, they were seen as extreme tests of absolute faith.
And get this. After Upamanyu is healed by the gods themselves, they offer him a cake to eat. And his response? He says, "Thank you, but I can't possibly eat this until I've offered it to my master first." That's the mindset. That's the world that created Utanka. A world where failing your duty to your teacher is the worst thing imaginable.
Okay, so we totally get Utanka's rage now. It's deep and it's personal.
But that still doesn't fully explain why the king would agree to wage a full-on war. Well, turns out King Janamejaya was already living in fear. He was terrified of a curse that had been hanging over his family for years.
So here's how it went down. It all started when the king's brothers, during a sacred ritual, beat up a puppy. Not a good move, because this was no ordinary puppy. Its mother, a divine dog named Sarama, showed up and cursed them, saying, "Evil will find you when you least expect it." This prophecy absolutely terrified Janamejaya, and he'd been desperately searching for some powerful ritual or priest to protect him ever since. And right then, Utanka walks in.
And this, my friends, is where our two stories slam right into each other. You've got a vengeful sage who needs a powerful weapon for his anger, and you've got a terrified king looking for a powerful solution to his fear. It's a match made in, well, a match made in vengeance.
Then Utanka drops the bombshell. He tells the king that the very same serpent who messed with him, who stole the sacred earrings, Takshaka, is also the one who murdered Janamajaya's father. And suddenly, for the king, this isn't just some random sage's problem, this is a direct attack on his family, on his entire lineage. And right here, you can see how their motivations just lock together perfectly. Utanka is driven by a personal vendetta. Janamejaya is driven by his royal duty to his father, and also this crippling fear from the curse. They both need something, and a giant serpent sacrifice? Well, that could solve both of their problems in one fiery swoop.
And so it's decided. The king's grief and his fear, now fanned into a roaring inferno by Utanka's rage, leads him to order the Sarpa Yagna, a massive, great fire sacrifice of serpents. This ritual is designed with one purpose: to use mystic power to pull every single serpent in the world out of hiding and drag them into the flames, all to get to one target: Takshaka.
Which leaves us with one last question to think about. What happens when you combine the immense, unstoppable power of a king with the intensely personal anger of one man? This whole epic disaster started with a beaten puppy and a pair of stolen earrings, and it escalates into a war against an entire species. It really makes you wonder, when we go looking for revenge, who else ends up paying the price?